Enough, no more of that, he said insistently, but also trembling all over, as if from an extremely strong shock. What, are you always going to stand in my way? Ganya bellowed, dropping Varya's hand, and, having freed his arm, in the utmost degree of rage, he swung roundly and slapped the prince in the face. Ah! Kolya clasped his hands. Ah, my God! There were exclamations on all sides. The prince turned pale. With a strange and reproachful gaze, he looked straight into Ganya's eyes, his lips trembled and attempted to say something, they were twisted by a strange and completely inappropriate smile. Well, let that be for me, but her I still won't let you, he said quietly at last, but suddenly unable to control himself, he left Ganya, covered his face with his hands, went to the corner, stood facing the wall, and said in a faltering voice, "Oh, how ashamed you'll be of what you've done." Ganya indeed stood as if annihilated. Kolya rushed to the prince and began embracing him and kissing him. After him crowded Rogozhin, Varya, Tin, Nina Alexandrovna, everyone, even old Ardalian Alexandrovich. Never mind, never mind," the prince murmured in all directions, with the same inappropriate smile. "He'll be sorry," shouted Rogozhin. "You'll be ashamed, Ganka, to have offended such a sheep." He was unable to find any other word. "Prince, my dear soul, drop them all, spit on them, and let's go." "You'll learn how Rogozhin loves." Nastasia Philippovna was also very struck both by Ganya's act and by the prince's response. Her usually pale and pensive face, which all this while had been so out of harmony with her affected laughter, was now visibly animated by a new feeling, and yet she still seemed unwilling to show it, and the mockery remained as if forcedly on her face. "Really, I've seen his face somewhere," she said unexpectedly, seriously now, suddenly remembering her question earlier. "And you're not even ashamed? You can't be the way you pretended to be just now." "It's not possible," the prince suddenly cried out in deeply felt reproach. Nastasia Philippovna was surprised, smiled, but, as if keeping something behind her smile, slightly embarrassed, she glanced at Ganya and left the drawing room. But before she reached the front hall, she suddenly came back, quickly went up to Nina Alexandrovna, took her hand, and brought it to her lips. He guessed right. In fact, I'm not like that, she whispered quickly, fervently, suddenly flushing and becoming all red, and, turning around, she went out so quickly this time that no one managed to figure out why she had come back. They only saw that she whispered something to Nina Alexandrovna and seemed to kiss her hand. But Varya saw and heard everything, and in astonishment followed her with her eyes. Ganya came to his senses and rushed to see Nastasia Philippovna off, but she had already gone out. He caught up with her on the stairs. "Don't see me off," she called to him. "Goodbye, till this evening. Without fail, you hear." He came back confused, pensive, a heavy riddle lay on his soul, still heavier than before. The prince, too, was on his mind. He was so oblivious that he barely noticed how the whole Rogozhin crowd poured past him and even jostled him in the doorway, quickly making their way out of the apartment after Rogozhin. They were all discussing something in loud voices. Rogozhin himself walked with Tin, insistently repeating something very important and apparently urgent. "The game's up, Ganka!" he cried, passing by. Ganya anxiously watched him leave. 11. The prince left the drawing room and shut himself up in his room. Kolya immediately came running to comfort him. It seemed the poor boy was no longer able to leave him alone. "It's a good thing you left," he said. "There'll be worse turmoil there than before, and it's like that every day, and it all started because of this Nastasia Philippovna." "You've got many different hurts accumulated here, Kolya," the prince observed. "Hurts, yes. There's no point talking about us, though. It's our own fault. But I have a great friend here who's even more unhappy. Would you like to meet him?" "Very much." "A comrade of yours?" "Yes, almost like a comrade." "I'll explain it all to you later, and Nastasia Philippovna is beautiful, don't you think?" I never even saw her till today, though I tried hard to. Really dazzling. I'd forgive Ganka everything if he loved her, but why he's taking money, that's the trouble. Yes, I don't much like your brother. Well, what else? For you, after, but you know, I can't stand these different opinions. Some madman, or fool, or villain in a mad state, gives a slap in the face, and the man is dishonored for the rest of his life and can't wash it off except with blood, or if the other one begs forgiveness on his knees. I think it's absurd and despotism. Lermontov's play The Masquerade 35 is based on it and, stupidly so, in my opinion.